Navigating trials with faith. Navigating trials with faith is one of the most powerful ways to grow closer to God and strengthen your character. When faced with difficulties, it can be easy to feel overwhelmed or discouraged, but through faith, we can find hope, strength, and the assurance that God is with us through every challenge. Here are some principles and scriptures to help you navigate trials with faith. 1. Understand that trials are a part of life. James 1:2-4 encourages us. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. Trials are a natural part of the Christian walk. God doesn't promise us an easy life, but He does promise that He will be with us in every trial and use those struggles to strengthen our faith and character. 2. Trust that God has a purpose in your trials. Romans 8:28 says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose." Even when it's hard to see, God is working in every situation for your good. Your trials are not pointless. They are opportunities for growth and to experience God's love in deeper ways. Trust that God is using every circumstance to mold you more into the image of Christ. 3. Keep your eyes on God, not the problem. It's easy to become fixated on the problem in front of us, but God calls us to keep our eyes on Him, especially in the midst of trials. Promises, "You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you." When you focus on God's promises and His ability to handle the situation, you experience His peace, even in the storm. Let faith in His power and love be what sustains you. 4. Lean on God's strength, not your own. Trials often reveal our weakness and inability to handle things on our own. This is an opportunity to lean into God's strength and trust that He will carry you through. 2 Corinthians 12:9-10 says, "But He said to me, 'My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. For the sake of Christ, then, I am content with weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecutions, and calamities. For when I am weak, then I am strong.'" God's grace and strength are more than enough to carry you through any trial. In your weakness, His strength shines brighter. 5. Know that God is always with you. God never leaves us, even in the most difficult times. His presence is constant, and He promises to walk with us through every trial. Deuteronomy 31:6 encourages us, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them, for the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you." No matter what you face, remember that God is always with you. His presence is a source of comfort, peace, and strength. 6. Rely on prayer and God's Word. Prayer is a direct line of communication with God, and it's an important tool when navigating through trials. Pour out your heart to God, seek His wisdom, and ask for His strength. Praising God even in difficult circumstances can shift your focus from the trial to God's goodness and power. Worship is an act of faith, and it invites God's peace into your heart. Acts 16 gives us an example of Paul and Silas, who, despite being imprisoned, were praying and singing hymns to God, and the other prisoners were listening to them. Their faith and praise led to a miraculous deliverance. Even when the storm doesn't immediately end, worship God for who He is. Praise can uplift your spirit and remind you of His faithfulness. 7. Remember the eternal perspective. Trials are temporary, but God's love and the promise of eternity with Him are everlasting. Keeping an eternal perspective helps you endure the hardships of this world. 2 Corinthians 4 says, "For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all." No matter what challenges you face, remember that they are small in comparison to the eternal glory that awaits you as a child of God. This hope can give you the strength to endure with faith. Praising God, even in difficult circumstances, can shift your focus from the trial to God's goodness and power. Worship is an act of faith, and it invites God's peace into your heart. Acts 16:25 gives us an example of Paul and Silas, who, despite being imprisoned, were praying and singing hymns to God, and the other prisoners were listening to them.